Good morning, everybody. Uh, Welcome to Let's Build Daily. I'm your host, Chris Carolin. Today, we're going to be talking about importing contacts into HubSpot. Real cutting edge, I know, especially after last week looking at Content Remix. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. Stuff like Content Remix, all the cool tools of the platform, they don't matter unless you get your data structure right, unless you're working off a foundation of clean data, specifically related to the human relationships that you're trying to manage. And that's why I love HubSpot, because it is structured around that human being that you're trying to partner with, collaborate with, do better with. So right now we're on the screen for getting started, and we see, recommended. So all you need to get started: set up the basics, import your contacts, invite teammates, understand HubSpot properties. We'll be focusing on 1 and 3 today. And what's cool is that, so this is the sales guide, right? If it's the marketing guide, same first step. Customer service guide, same first step. And this is where I'm starting to hear more and more, confusion around, what CRMs are, what they're supposed to be doing. I think for a long time, they've been sold as the tool for sales, which we're not there anymore. I mean, the whole company is selling, the whole company's marketing, the whole company is serving in terms of customer experience. And that's why I love the shift to customer platform. So, and we'll get into that in a second. But so what we want to do, and not in this portal, I'm using this one because it's a new, end user portal. So we get these user guides. What we want to do is actually get this list. So we're going to be building a data set inspired by the Final Fantasy franchise. And we've got this, list of contacts that we want to take from this spreadsheet and get it into this Let's Build demo portal, in which we only have 2 contacts right now. But in order to get it here successfully and not just create a headache in here instead of the spreadsheet, there's some things to think through as you look at, your spreadsheet. And I think unknowingly, I put this data set together in a similar way to how most of these lists are built, added contacts at different times. I was using AI to help build the list, and, based on different prompts across different days, I was getting different formats for the data. And, for me, it's some lists you get from trade shows, some lists are pulled from, the last sales guy's Outlook. You might invest in an Apollo, and just all these different places to get contact data. First and foremost, don't buy lists and then just shove them in the CRM. Please don't do that. Nobody wins in that scenario. But anyways, we got this list built over time, and now there's a significant amount of cleanup you can do beforehand and setup. But the data quality tools in HubSpot can also help. So that's where this import tool that we're going to show, and these other deduplication tools inside the system can go a long way and make it, we're getting closer and closer to just taking what you got and helping you through the process instead of making you put hours and hours of work into the spreadsheet before bringing it into the system. So now, usually, so some things to consider are usually at the top of a spreadsheet. Anything at the top is going to be a property, in the CRM or, in the contact data platform. Here we have some first name, last name, what we're calling a job title, job class, game origin acronym, and email. What I'm going to do for these purposes, because we do want it related to, what you guys are trying to do every day. So this column has a load of different stuff in it, but a lot of it is, for me, it's a lot like, contact type. What kind of person are we working with? So that could be, like a partner, a distributor, a rep. It helps us understand how we may or may not interact, with that person. This one is more like job title, actually, because we have some very standard titles, and then we get a little creative, let's say. Even like, ninjas in here. A couple places I've seen some real life, ninja titles. So this is the place where, between some of these, like, you have to balance between understanding that you may want to standardize it yourself. It may help you standardize it, but people out in the real world, they're not using standardized titles and standardized company designations. So finding ways to standardize for your system, but also keeping it open for people to identify the way that they want to, is super important. Here, I'm going to use this set as a company. So we've got, and for me, this is like, there's 15 games represented. We're gonna use them to represent like 15 different company locations that all have their own set of, people at each location that we work with, and then we'll just keep it keep it consistent here. So we got a company. Let's say location. That is something that I've seen in portals. And now we've got email address. And here's a good example of, how often have you seen it where, different people, depending on which time they've joined the company, there's just different formats for their emails. So like, we have some first name dot last name. And then here in our most recent, let's say a new marketing person comes in, they have a bright idea for how they want to, brand via the email addresses. So you got this, brand new, like, not capitalized here, capitalized here. Like, I've seen stuff like that in the wild. So it's going to be fun to mess around with that. But that stuff's important, right? Especially for HubSpot, because HubSpot uses the email address as a unique ID for contacts. That's what helps deduplicate, and all the way through to the membership, functionality of HubSpot is all based on the email address of the contact record. So now usually there's something else that you care about, some attribute, some piece of information that you care about that you might want to add in bulk to the spreadsheet before you bring it into HubSpot. So as an example, you might want to say like contact owner in this case, Chris Carolin, and we'll just, what else is there? Like industry, even though it's on the company, across these different locations, there might be different industries or applications, would be an example. But in order to help kind of think about it, and back to the idea of, CRM is not just for sales, it's not just for marketing, not just for service. There was a good, accounting thread earlier today that if you can see HubSpot as the place where your customer process starts and ends, right? Literally any human relationship, all the communication involved in working together with people inside and outside of the company in an effort to serve a product or serve up an experience for somebody outside of the organization, you keep that inside of the customer platform. And to that point, now with any of this, like the spreadsheet is a place to get started. It's a very easy way to start working in the tool, getting familiar with it. But at some point, you've got to map your process. And here's why, right? So this is a fairly straightforward flow that I've shown before, but we've got, visitor fills out the form, and we're creating contact, MQL or not, right? And then we qualify for a deal, right? So maybe at this place, but often not. Like you might have, an influence, somebody that really wants to use the product for themselves. Like they're the ones that fills out the form, right? But then as you qualify, they've got to get their boss on the call or somebody from another department that needs to make a decision, right? They got to be on the call. So again, we build up the number of humans involved as we move through the process. Then if we're doing any kind of evaluation, like especially technical, we've got engineers coming in. Here we've got a quote process. So purchasing's getting involved, especially in the negotiation. And then as we sell and, hand it off to post sales, we've got all these different things that are going on. So IT, and I think it can help to think about it that each time a person, is introduced to the process, they are going through their own journey with you. So even though that company just bought the product, the person that's about to use the product is here. They might not have ever heard of you before. So they start over here. They are not a customer yet, right? It might be the label on their company, but they don't know you. Like they don't trust you yet. So understanding that this is still their process, where they're, learning about you, learning about the product, training, and then they want to research. And if you're not giving them training, if you're not giving them resources, they're less likely to become a customer, in that they will use the product instead of their spreadsheet, instead of their screwdriver. No matter how great your product is, if I don't know it, I don't trust it, I'm less likely to use it, right? So everybody that comes into the process can hit, some or all of these stages that they need to go through, and that if you can take them through successfully, right, you will have a successful relationship, with that client, with that customer. So when we think about what we want to add to the spreadsheet, we look at the HubSpot property set just for ideas, and I'm just going to scroll in here, right? And we have, the common stuff that's like, first name, We have first name, last name, emails, address information. Not going to worry about that here, but company name, and then, uh, titles, all this stuff about where they went to school, like demographic information, figure out what matters to you, right? But then how do we want to engage, with this person? How did they come in, right? So a very common uh, add to the spreadsheet is like the source information, like offline source, right? So trade show, big event 2023, big event 2024, adding stuff like that to the list so that you know where it's coming from. If it's a set of customers, you're adding, life cycle stage, and you're setting it to customer. So let's do that in this case. So we'll add, life cycle stage here, and we are gonna add all of these as customer, right? So, so hopefully you get the idea there, thinking through what you want to add based on how you're gonna, start managing these in the system. And now let's go through the import in the second half of the show, knowing that there is some data to clean up, but we will get HubSpot's help with that. So let's come to all contacts and click import. And we will start an import. Import file from computer, import an opt-out list, repeat a past import. We're going to import file from computer. And we're going to do one file. We're going to do one object. So here's all the things we can import. And we're doing contacts. All right, choose a file. Now at this point, we have this in a Google Sheet. Right, when I click choose a file, it's going to look for that sheet. So I am going to download CSV. And there it is. Now I can import it. And here, so we have our options: choose how to import, create an update, create new contacts only. We'll create new only. Same object associations are possible. We're not messing around with that. Select the language, English. Next. So at this point, it's scanning up to 1,000 rows to understand the data, right? And it says we've got ready to import contacts, but some errors may exist. Properties required to create contacts. Map one of email. So we're just mapping here. And so we've got this mapped and this mapped. And here, yeah, let's just go through the list. So if we go to type. All right, so here we're going to create new property, contact type. So scanning the first 1,000 rows of this column to autofill property details, done. So we've got contact type, drop down select, playable character, and then it gives me the options. Review property details. I can click next. So it gives us all the options that show up, right? And so this is one of the cool parts of, the AI supported process, where, this process of creating a new property as you went, is always one of those things you're like, oh, dang it. Like I need to go back to the spreadsheet, add this in, and then restart the import process. We don't have to do that anymore. So I want to click next, because we're not going to do any cleanup right now. Some of this you definitely, might do beforehand, but there's also ways that we'll get into, later in the week to make this to get help from HubSpot natively to clean stuff up and change information. So I need a new property here. So here it wants to give me a drop-down select because there is a specific set of options in this sheet. But I know that over time, there's going to be way more options than this. So in this case, we're going to keep it as company location acronym, but we're going to change the field type to single line text. And we're going to show in forms. So during this process, we can require unique values, set limits, do some validation here. And now we have a couple errors in our email. So let's look at the errors. Invalid email. This column has email addresses that aren't in a valid format, such as name at domain. View values with errors, right? So we're missing the period in between these. All right. So we can ignore and fix later. So these two values, won't be imported. And so maybe you do stop the process and fix it. Maybe you don't, but you have that option here. And then we've got contact owner and lifecycle stage. The key here when importing things that are the drop downs, which is nice about when it creates for you, right? The drop down info or the information in the spreadsheet has to match the options of a drop down. So if I change this to client, if I had this as client in the spreadsheet for lifecycle stage and client doesn't exist as an option, it's not going to be imported. But luckily, this has just come so far as being able to validate and tell us why, the data is good or bad. So a few final details. An opportunity to change the name. Let's do that. Contacts. Simple naming convention is which object. Is it import or export? And let's say, where it was from. So let's just say, network, the drive, and then today's date. So 24/04/08, and that's a 23. Create a list from this import. I agree that all contacts in this import are expecting to hear from my organization. I have a prior relationship with these contacts and have emailed them at least once in the past year. I can confirm this list wasn't purchased, rented, appended, or provided by a third party. I agree. So this is CYA for HubSpot. Obviously, you can check this box with these things. But depending on where you're doing business from and who you're trying to do business with, this can end very badly for you. So again, be careful with the customer data. Don't buy lists and just shove them in the CRM. Now, once you get in here, there's tons of guardrails to make sure you're not a bad actor. But again, we're not going to set these as marketing contacts either. But this is what you choose. You need to have this active if you want to do any kind of regular emails or use the marketing tools to communicate with your contacts. So we're going to finish the import. And we've got 226 new records. We've got 2 rows not imported because of the invalid email. Duplicate alternate ID. Okay. And we can view rows with errors. All right. So here it is. All right. So column 7 is email. So it caught a duplicate email. And if we go back here, we've got contact formatting issues. So we can click into there, right? Brings us right into the data quality, area. And, includes common placeholder text. So these NAs, right? That's a placeholder. Current and proposed fix. So this is the stuff, even in the free, pretty sure in the free, it'll show you this. You can't automate it, but it'll show you this so that you can take action, right? But it's getting better and better. It's not always perfect. So it may want to remove or change names that are actually good. So again, like any AI process, right? Humans got to be there, beginning, middle, end, to make sure that the stuff is going well. So if we go back to our contacts, now we have 228 records. I want to make sure they are customers. So I'm going to add lifecycle stage. And we've got so many things with lifecycle stage in it now. So that's not as easy as it was in the past, but we're okay with that. We'll move it to the top. And now we've got a confirmation of these are our customers. So we'll end it there, but we've got everything in. Hopefully you got some understanding of the import process and things to think through. So as you look at your contact data outside of the system and how to get it in, even outside of sales, anybody you're communicating with, let's start getting that information into the system so that we can all be aligned and see that 360 degree of the view of the customer. So as you look at those spreadsheets, find the opportunity and let's grow. Have a great week, everybody.